Hello students, we are going to do our pre-AP reteach session now over the Exploration and Colonization unit. Don't forget that your reteach must be completed before you come and see us for the retest. The retest opportunities are posted on the right-hand side of the screen. They begin Thursday morning, September 26th, and the last one is Tuesday morning, October 1st. So make sure you don't miss that opportunity. Okay, so one of the things we see that the pre-AP students struggled with this year is the reasons for exploration. Specifically, why did our top three players, France, Great Britain, and Spain, come to the Americas to begin with? And you know the 3 G's from 7th grade: gold, God, and glory. And you know that now we call those political reasons, economic reasons, and social reasons. And that's all true, but you have to remember that the true primary motivation for all of these explorers, including all the way back to Christopher Columbus, was nothing to do with North America. Remember that these explorers and monarchs were truly seeking the new trade route to get to China and the East Indies. Of course, it seems silly now that they didn't know North America was there, but they needed the fastest and the most efficient way to get to the Silk Road, to the spices of Asia, without running into conflict. It was very dangerous to trek from Europe over to China and the Indies, where the spices and the silks were. And so they were looking for this water route to get there. And of course, Columbus and others, we know, stumble upon North America instead. So the original intent of all exploration was looking for the new trade route. Once they land in North America and realize that there is land to be had, that's when the big game of risk begins. And each of these top three players, France, Great Britain, and Spain, are trying to expand their empires. And we know that the more territory and the more land that you have, the bigger and more powerful your empire becomes. Within each of those countries, there were specific motivations, of course, that differed from one another. The French realized that there was a great opportunity for fur trade in North America with the Native Americans. The Spanish were a very strongly Catholic country and founded many Catholic missions across North America that still exists today, and had the intent to spread their Catholic faith to the Native Americans. The British came for numerous reasons. Of course, we know people like the Pilgrims and Puritans were seeking religious freedom to escape the religious persecution of their monarchies. But they were also just plain old seeking wealth. And some of that was driven by people individually. Some of it was driven by merchants and businessmen. But a lot of it was actually the result of the monarchs and the nobility of England sending groups of people to look for natural resources and gold in the colonies. So even though each group had their own specific reasons to stay and colonize in North America, the original intent for exploration was to find new trade routes. All right, the next thing we're going to review for you guys, this slide and the next slide, they're intertwined, and that is that there are 3 colonial subregions in the colonies that have distinctly different personalities, geography, ways to make money, etc. So we are looking at the colonial maps foldable here, and this student has colored New England light blue, the middle colonies brown, and the southern colonies green. And so that's going to help us as a memory cue in remembering how each of these regions is so different. So I want you to take a mental picture, come back if you need to these 3 colors, and look exactly where those colors lie on the map. Okay, so now that we have those colors in our brain, we are here to talk about how each of those regions is different. So let's start in the bottom, the South. So the southern colonies, as we know, were colored green. The color green, of course, makes us think of grass and trees and plants and all things agriculture. The southern colonies were so successful with agriculture because they had these really warm summers, hot, humid days, long growing seasons, very, very mild winters. We know in the South there's not a ton of snow, but mostly it's the fertile soil of the South that allows these plantations, these huge giant farms, to be able to thrive by growing rice, tobacco, and indigo. And so the color green is going to remind us of agriculture and cash crops. We get to the middle colonies as we go further north, and those were colored brown. I don't have brown, so you're just going to have to pretend that yellow is brown. And the middle colonies were colored brown because of the crops that they grew. They were able to grow some crops like wheat, rye, barley, grains, oats, and other types of crops that might be used. Okay, sorry guys, I had to pause, so I don't know what I was saying. But the middle colonies grew grains, rye, barley, wheat, and oats, and other crops that would be used to make bread. So that's why we colored the middle colonies brown. They had a fairly good climate in the middle colonies, not too hot, not too cold, fairly mild winters, but they did receive some snow. And of course, the soil was more fertile than New England, but less fertile than the South. Which brings us to New England. We colored New England light blue to represent the very icy cold water. Their soil was very rocky and unable to grow cash crops, so they had to find other ways to make money because of their long, cold winters and very short growing season. So the one thing they did have was this really icy cold water with an abundance of fish and whales. So they did that to make a lot of money, as well as build ships using the lumber from the dense forests of New England. So even though they didn't have the right climate and the right soil for agriculture, they used all the positive aspects of their dense forests and their cold waters to make money in other ways. And that wraps up our reteach. Please make sure you come and visit us for a retest session in the next few days. Thanks, guys.